Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. My name is Michael Vargas. I'm a business consultant who works with organizations to create collaborative and productive team cultures. This is a video series by Lead by Impact, talking to leaders who will share their own personal hero's journey with team culture. And today we have the one, the only, Claude Jones. Claude Jones is a seasoned technical leader with over 16 years of experience. He is currently the site lead for Walmart Global Tech in Carlsbad, helping to contribute to the growing tech culture here in San Diego. In addition, in his spare time, Claude runs the Elevate Foundation, an organization he started focusing on giving back to the community by helping others in need. He started the Practical Leadership Guy, where he offers services for motivational speaking, life coaching, and his leadership thoughts on common sense leadership techniques through his blog, encouraging others to be the best they can be. Claude is also the founder of the San Diego Tech Hub, which I have so much admiration for, and I love it's such an amazing space. So it's an organization focused on changing the perception of the San Diego tech ecosystem. The focus is to be a conduit for change, connecting businesses, organizations, and individuals, leveraging their resources, passions, and talents to build a stronger San Diego tech community through collaboration. Claude, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, Michael, thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be talking with you today.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for everybody to know, the one of the original ways I originally met Claude was through San Diego Startup Week. He delivered this phenomenal talk. And, a lot of talks often are very technical and things like that, but he had such passion, such emotion. And so I went up to him afterwards and we chatted up. And then again, getting reconnected when I went to the San Diego Tech Hub, which is it was just these monstrous events of bringing people together who want to have big impact on the community. And so I got to meet Claude more, got to know Claude more through that. So Claude, thank you so much for creating those spaces.
Not a problem. Really happy that it's helped made a positive impact, man, on you.
Yeah, and not just me, so many people. So Claude, in your own words, can you tell the people a little bit about what is it that you actually do?
Well, my day job, I'm as you mentioned, senior director of engineering for Walmart Global Tech, and so I'm responsible for building tools that help automate and manage Walmart's assortment. So all the items that you sell online, both in their physical and online presence. So I manage a cross-functional team of over 200 employees that span across California, Arkansas, and India.
And we were just talking about the fun of working with different time zones.
Oh yeah.
So Claude, as I've gotten to know you, as I've gotten to hear you, I've thought, again, that right there is a true leader. He's a true leader because he really works to figure out how to support as many people as possible, not through just your words, but through your actions. And so with that, what do you think in your perception? And I know there's a million different things, but what is one of the main things you believe people want in a team culture?
Yeah, that is a great question. And I think there's two, I'd like to answer that in two different ways. I think there's, I guess the first part, as an individual being a part of a team, I feel that people want to be passionate about what they work on, be in an environment that they're passionate about what they work on. They'd love to be supported and have a growth type of environment, whether there's mentors, a boss that's supporting them, or they're in a team environment that's supportive, and then feel appreciated for what they do, whether that's promotion or personal growth and what's going on. So as an individual, you have that. And I think if you're able to kind of give that to an individual, they're going to be more open within their environment and their space. And when I think about building a strong team culture and things that I practice in sort of my day-to-day, there's 8 things that I have. One is, I'm going to kind of read some of these things off here. Provide tactful real-time feedback. And that's really focused on, a lot of times people aren't communicating and doing things, or they don't know when something is being done incorrectly, but being able to have that candid feedback, in the moment, where it makes sense to where people can adapt and change. That's something that we practice, being very tactful with providing real-time feedback to make adjustments. Having people be accountable for their actions. And, sometimes we make mistakes, but being okay to step up and say, you know what, I own this. This is what's going on. What's the path forward? And being very solution oriented. That's another thing that we practice. Set realistic expectations and goals. And it's kind of battling, not being stressed and rushed, and creating the right boundaries for you to be productive in the things that you need to. And how do you communicate that in the most effective way? Work together for the success of the team. So really trying to make sure we're being team players instead of individuals is another key piece. Make decisions based on facts and not emotions. And so really being objective in our thought process. Celebrate individual successes and team successes, being able to recognize people for the hard work that they do. Make time for innovation. All work and no play tends to be a little bit boring. And so what can we do to help stimulate that creative thought? And then lastly, and the most important one is learning from our failures. To me, a failure is a success as long as you're able to learn from it. And, so many people feel like when they mess up, it's going to be the end of the world. But if we can embrace these failures and really learn from them and move forward in a positive way, that really creates an open, dynamic environment, allow you really to accomplish anything.
Yeah, especially if you have an environment that, continually reinforces that last piece, right? Where we messed up, what do we learn? Let's move on. And then you do it again and again, and allowing that to just become a behavior. And I love that because it's also so empowering, right? It can truly empower people to know I can take risks. We can learn from this and we can do better, and it's going to be okay. And we can just keep growing and growing and growing from that. So I really appreciate that one. And so with this, what do you think what's a challenge that you've had, right? When it's come to working with a team and team culture, what's one of those challenges that comes to mind?
Yeah. I think maybe a recent challenge that I faced, I had a team as I was kind of going through some of the transitions that had very low morale. And I was struggling with how to help transform that situation. And so when I talk about the team having low morale, the team had worked on numerous projects that weren't being adopted by the customer. So I was working on engineering type of tools, and the engineers were like, we don't want to use that stuff. And so that was consistently happening. Projects were being canceled. The team was short-staffed. They had multiple leaders that kept churning in and out of that group. And so that whole team, just the culture of that team itself just was really low. And, I had to step in and try to figure out how to help transform the situation.
What do you think was going on for the team members? Kind of what were the secondary challenges that they were having because a lot of the work that they were putting in wasn't getting used, right? And not only that, but they were putting so much more time and effort because they were low staffed. So what kind of challenges do you think that happened for the individuals?
Yeah, and it was bad. And so once I kind of dove into what was actually happening, there was attrition in the team. That was the first signal, man, why is everyone leaving this group? What's going on? And so I had to kind of dive deep. So attrition happened within the team. Sort of a lack of ownership because people just didn't care. It was like, well, no one's using this anyway, so why does it matter? So then we had a bunch of quality issues. People felt undervalued. You have people now starting to have some negative feelings. They would start talking in pockets. So now you have these cliques of where people are like, oh, we don't like working for the team. This is what's going on. And then that was spreading throughout the team. And then just a lack of communication because people felt like it didn't matter. So even if I had skip level conversations and talking with folks, they really wouldn't tell me what was going on because they thought, well, Claude, we've talked to our immediate manager, nothing's changed. You coming and talking to us, nothing's going to change. And so no one really told me because they felt like it didn't matter. It didn't care. And so you could just see that it was a very toxic culture that started to build because they felt unappreciated.
Right. And I hear a sense of there's probably a sense of they felt defeated. And I've gone into so many different organizations where there was one organization, you're going to find this interesting when you talk about attrition, huge multi-billion-dollar company, thousands of employees. Their attrition rate was 106%. They were losing more people than they were able to bring in.
Jeez.
And so when we first started talking to the teams and the managers, they were saying the same thing of, it just all felt so hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's going to change. This isn't going to happen. Nothing's going to work. Fortunately, within about 6 months, it went from 106 to 96%. So we saw some changes.
Awesome.
But that's a big one where people just feel like nothing's really changed. So why do we believe that something else is going to change?
That's right.
And so what did you start doing in that scenario to start shifting things around?
Yeah. I'll say one thing, man, before I get into that question. You mentioned this thing about feeling like hopeless. Like that's how I felt, literally. And, I was walking into a situation that I really didn't understand. And I thought as a leader, well, let me just go ahead and talk to these folks and figure out what was going on. And I realized that I had addressed the problem just way too late. And then I tried to engage. I could sense there was a lack of trust between, the associate and me, that, I'm just kind of sugarcoating or throwing something or waving my hands and no action was going to be taken. And to be honest, man, I felt like crap, and I felt like a failure as a leader, in that particular instance. Now I didn't stay in that space too long, and I realized that what I needed to do to help. So I started first really talking with the team to understand their pain points and what their personal goals. Like I sort of transitioned the thing about being about me and how I felt, and being empathetic to the situation of the associates, and just really kind of diving into why they were unhappy, what weren't they getting from senior leadership or myself, what were the growth opportunities that they wanted, like how could I really kind of shift the focus to let them know that I cared about them. So I did spend some good quality time in skip levels, understanding that problem, taking notes and figuring that out. The other thing I did is, the source of the problem is that people weren't using their products. And so I had to actually talk to the end users on understanding, look, the stuff that we're working on isn't even needed. Because it seems like those questions weren't being asked for whatever reason. And so I went and found those answers myself. And it turned out that people were like, no, that the stuff that your team's doing isn't really adding the type of value that we need. And so we prefer not to use it. Now, once I got that information, I needed to start working on a plan on pivoting and transitioning. And so as part of that, there were folks that were very passionate about what they were working on. And then I had folks that just wanted to completely transition off and do something new. And so I started working on a transition plan for these two folks and looking at it in three different ways. Number one, how can I improve this situation for the individual? How can that help drive efficiency within the team? And then how is that going to help benefit the company overall? And so as part of coming up with that transition plan, just working through this feedback from the team, working with the various leaders, we went through and did, I ended up doing the transition. So in this particular case, it wasn't like I could come in and salvage the team and make everything go away or just smooth it out. It really forced sort of a transformation because the stuff that they were working on wasn't needed. So that was hard to swallow, for the teams. And why did it take so long to figure that out, Claude? This has been going on for months and months, and now you're just now telling us. So I had to deal with that. Once we split up the team, so now I'm splitting up the team. So that was another challenge. It's like, why are you splitting us up? We've been here together and this is what's going on. But I had to again explain about individual growth, team growth, and, benefit for the company. And once we had those conversations, these folks found a great home and they had a career path, in their new space. So, I would say this whole process took about 6 months to really understand, digest, and go things on. And I actually finished the transition, I would say back in like last month, we finished this transition. And following up with people, it's night and day, man. You have folks that are now focused on things that they really enjoy. There's a home. They're being appreciated for the work. The velocity of the team is accelerated. You could see there's a sense of ownership for the things. People want to use the products that we have. And so, as down as it was, we were able to turn it around. So I felt it was a good end result.
There's so many reasons why I love hearing this. So like, just to reflect back, a couple of the things you did was, one, you really worked to understand rather than have them try to understand you, right? First seek to understand before being understood. And with that, you also, which we were talking about earlier, is how scary people are, how scared people are of change.
Mm-hmm.
And you, by understanding them, by understanding the situation, you were able to kind of deconstruct it and then reconstruct it in a very different way, but in a way that made people start feeling valued,
Mm-hmm.
in a way that brought people to bring them to where their strengths are, in a way that not only helped them, but helped other teams and helped the other organization. And so many people get very scared about that because, you know, people are very afraid of change, and they're also afraid of negative consequences happening to them. And what you did was, okay, how can I really think about this in a different way? And you put them in a place for them to grow. And I just want to say that's something I really appreciate, rather than just banging your head, rather than saying they're bad people, these people don't know anything. You're like, no, look, you looked at it very objectively rather than with judgment. And I think because of that, you were able to make it a win-win-win across the board. So I just want to say, I think that was very beautifully done.
Thank you, my friend. Yeah. And I will say that, you know, talking through it, you know, it seems very logical. Going through it, oh man, you know, there are emotions and things that are going on because you know, I had to rebuild trust with the team, and rebuilding trust isn't something that it's hard. It's hard to do, especially when people feel betrayed. So, you know, that's why I said it took about 6 months really to help regain the trust, map out a plan, and where people could see that, you know, we were doing things for their best interest. So,
Right. And another lesson for people to take away is that sometimes these answers are not going to come overnight.
mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of time and patience. And that's another thing I'm hearing and want to get across to the people. These things, culture shifts, take time and patience and a commitment.
That's right.
Right. You, at the end of the day, you're like, we're going to figure this out one way or another. And you found the way because you were consistent with it. You were patient with it, and you took your time so that you could do the best for you and the team.
Yeah.
And so what would you say would be, how would you say you've grown because of that experience?
Oh man, leadership is such a journey. I'd say, you know, this was probably one of the most difficult challenges that I've faced in a while. I think what I've learned is I need to be more in touch with my team by having skip levels to help build that trust. And, you know, while I was delegating things down to, you know, my other managers, you know, so they felt like I wasn't stepping on their toes, I lost touch of, you know, just those other associates. And so that was the thing, you know, how do I have that balance to stay in touch and working around that, so things didn't need to escalate to that point, and I maybe could have provided some advice a lot sooner. Working with my leadership team to do coaching. Some of this stuff I felt that they could have done on their own. And so, you know, how do you make objective decisions? How to be open with the communication? And a lot of times my leadership team didn't want to bubble anything up because they felt, you know, a sense of pressure to make sure that we have to paint a pretty picture for Claude to ensure everything's okay. Or if they might have been a little bit selfish because they didn't want to let a project go, because it could have been the fear of, well, what does that mean for my job if I let this go? And am I going to have another position? So, you know, how do I coach, you know, and work with my leadership team and making sure that they're thinking very objectively and doing the right things for the individual, the team, and the company.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, it's a hard thing to let people know, hey, you're going to be okay, even if things don't work out.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%, man. And I think the other thing is, once I got the feedback, understanding what the right things to maybe take on my own to drive versus what to delegate. And, you know, in hindsight, when I was working and I would have these skip levels earlier on, you know, I would take the feedback, work with the manager, and then say, hey, look, this is what I'm hearing. Let's brainstorm on what needs to be done, kind of give me an update a little bit later. What was actually happening is that the associates would tell me, I would tell my managers in confidence, they would go around and say, why'd you tell Claude this, and sort of what's going on, which was even further helping to reduce the trust. So just that sort of communication flow and how we get done. So it was me learning, okay, as I have that information, because information really is power, man, and how you tend to use it, what you tend to do with it. And it's that balance of, there are probably things I need to take on as a leadership level, given what I know should be done versus what I delegate as a growth sort of opportunity for the managers that I'm working with. So finding that balance. The other thing, man, is as a leader, I had to realize that I can't make everyone happy. That I'm going to have to make decisions as a leader that were, some people are just going to be like, why the heck did Claude do that? Or he's picking on me. And it's just, I would get so caught up, earlier on in my leadership career, that I wanted to be everyone's friend and everyone had to be happy. Like, it's so unrealistic. And this is why objective thinking is so important, coupled with having empathy, for individuals and how to articulate the why. And even if you do all these things perfect, people still might not agree with you, but it's okay. It literally is okay. So it was me getting comfortable and learning that I can't make everyone happy, and I need to do what's right, based on that. And then I think that's really it, man. I probably said a lot, but I think those are the key learnings that I took from that experience.
A lot of golden nuggets, people, in that. So please make sure you heard that. If not, rewind and hear it again. A lot of golden nuggets. And one thing I want to point out, that I've gotten to experience from Claude, and I think it showed up in this interview, is you have this great balance. This balance of being a very humble leader, of saying, I know that I didn't do so great on this. I'm going to get feedback. I know that I don't know, so I'm going to learn. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to be curious. I'm going to try to see what other things are available. And then you also hold yourself to such a high standard. You and the people around you to such a great standard, and have these expectations as well. So I think you have such this beautiful balance of being a humble leader, but also a leader that's like, no, we're still going to figure it out. We're still going to get done, and we're still going to move forward, and we're still going to do this with utmost quality and care. And I think that's a hard balance for a lot of people. So if another thing to take away from Claude, getting a sense of how do we have that balance of being a humble leader who's willing to learn and grow, but then a leader that's willing to push and say, we can do better, we can keep doing better, we can keep doing better, and get the best out of people. So I just want to say, Claude, thank you for showing us what that looks like.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much for saying that.
Well, again, I just want to say, Claude, thank you so much for taking the time to share your wisdom and your expertise. And before we finally wrap up, where can more people learn about you? Where can they go if they want a little bit more of that Claude Jones?
Well, definitely check out thepracticalleadershipguy.com. You can find it if you go find me on LinkedIn. I have some links there you can check out. Check out some of the things that we're doing with the Elevate Foundation. I think once we are able to sort of meet up in person again, we tend to have events where we're giving back to the community. So, be on the lookout for that. And then we're starting to ramp up again on some of the San Diego Tech Hub meetings. We have some great things coming up. I think our next meeting that we're planning for, actually next month, early next month, is going to be on how are we hacking the recruiting process. So really looking at things that are failing and talking to industry experts about how we can make that process a bit more streamlined, more diverse, and really help people get jobs, how we can change our mindset. And then we're going to be doing another talk around on a blockchain, cryptocurrency. We know that thing is just going crazy right now, and kind of understanding how that technology works, what's going on, and how things are going. So anyways, we're constantly trying to do things, provide, value for the community. So check out my LinkedIn page and, all the various things that we're doing.
And again, Claude is someone who does really consistently work how to give back to the community, how to bring people together. So if you're looking to join a community, Claude's a good hub for that as well. And I want to say thank you to the audience for spending the time and listening to our stories here. If you'd like to hear more about leaders and learn about team culture, you can visit at leadbyimpact.com. Thank you so much for being here. And Claude, again, thank you for sharing your wisdom with us.
Oh, I had a pleasure. It was always great talking with you, Michael.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye.